Alright, that's probably close enough to a 5-minute countdown. Let's get back into more Suzerain. I've honestly been thinking about this ever since I finished the last stream a few hours ago. And I've been really wanting to play more of it. I was supposed to do some Mario, but that'll be pushed till tomorrow. For now, I want more Suzerain. So we jump back in. Sunaj, dictator, Mario World, Super Mario World. So we're gonna get the required 2 hours of Mario, and that's probably going to be it. Please, something going on in Dare, something going on in Holsford. Let's see what's the report. Has demanded an emergency be called to address the increasing political violence in the country. Without a declaration of emergency, Sortland would be destabilized and the integrity of the country would be damaged even further. What an evil man, indeed. Something going on in Dare? Widespread protests, homelessness, yeah. Funeral of Bernard Circus. The decision to attend the funeral of Bernard Circus. The death of Bernard Circus has shocked the country, and his funeral will be held in Dare among large crowds of sympathizers. Circus was not only a communist poet, but also an elected MP that had a voice. The state funeral has been organized to honor him. The question of whether the president and the administration will attend the funeral or not. We will attend the funeral. But showing we will not be cowed. Funeral of Bernard Circus. Our clouds were looming over Dare. They looked daunting. This convoy started approaching the century-old cemetery. Fitting weather for a funeral. As expected, the funeral plans maintained. Was paying attention to the ceremony, as special as what it would say in my speech today. Sir, we have arrived. Raindrops are running down the car window when Serge opened the door, an umbrella in my hand. It's okay, Serge. I will hold my own umbrella. As you wish, sir. Handed me the umbrella and standed waiting next to the car with his own. Peter and Carl exited from their own cars in the convoy. They made their way over to me. Anton, Mr. President. I just want to inform you the perimeter is clear and secured completely. There's no one getting in or out without our knowledge. We don't want something similar happening again, do we? Good work, thank you, Carl. Carl bowed his head with respect. Good. If anything happens to Anton, you will have to answer to me. You have to answer to the First Lady. And trust me, Carl, you don't want that. You let out a laugh, which drew some attention from bereaved attendees. Peter, you're being inconsiderate. You're right, sorry. It started to rain. Several unintelligible voices were heard from Carl's radio. He stepped out to reply and returned shortly. I have a small problem, sir. A few, 5 to be exact, Road Youth members are here to attend a funeral. They apparently say they wish to pay their respects to their fallen comrade. Should we let them in? Do you think they pose a security threat? No, they were thoroughly searched. It looks like they really are here to attend the funeral. Let them in. As you command. Let's head over. They are about to start. We were in black and morning. The rain started pouring heavily. I was over in the front row, staring at the coffin with a mixture of disbelief, confusion, and above all, cold, unforgiving sadness. Both of their eyes were very red and swollen from weeping. We're taking my place to observe the ceremony. I gave my condolences to Bernard's wife and his daughter, who looked at me. She reminded me of Dina. When the religious ceremony was over, I was invited by the priest to deliver my speech. I took the podium. I had a lump in my throat. I couldn't get the daughter's eyes out of my head. Today we are mourning Bernard Circus, a father, a husband, and a loyal servant of this country. Members of the Red Youth, wearing red shirts and black bands of mourning on their heads, they seemed ruly and were respectfully bowing their heads. There was complete silence except for the sound of raindrops. This is a heinous act made towards a good man. We must end the cycle of violence. He was a true comrade and fought for what he believed in, his ideal vision of. This is a great loss for all of us. Oh, gee, what do we say here? This is a great loss. Feels too generic. I think number 3 is what I feel the most. Same as towards a good man, we must end this cycle of violence now. Circus had a dream of a unified Swordland in these next months. We need to fulfill his dream and band together. Dream of unified Swordland in these next months we need to fulfill this dream and band together. Hatred begets hatred. There is only one way to overcome this vicious cycle. We must unite against the evil of this world. Let us all mourn the passing of Bernard Circus. Hatred begets hatred. I would now like to recite one of the poems he left us. Our only strength is the will to survive, knowing that we will perish, knowing nothing more absolute. We rise towards the sun. Those who died, died fighting. They are now buried in the sun, no need to mourn. There is a raid to the sun. They're afraid of the dawn, they are afraid of hope, but our songs will be sung. Maybe I shouldn't have recited one of his poems. I don't know. They are afraid of the dawn, they are afraid of hope, but our songs will be sung. This one feels the least aggro. And maybe a thank you? Yeah, thank you. Some attendees started clapping, some crying. A coffin was lowered into the grave by the gravekeepers after a couple of minutes. Was with the soil no more. As we bid farewell to Bernard, I want to close with the words, "Every sword lives by, a Morgana West Core." Or we just step down from the podium. Let's go with 1. Everyone replied, "Victurnus is da, victory is close." The applause is set down from him. It was time to leave. On my way back to car, I still couldn't get the eyes of Bernard's daughter, nor the faltering voice of his wife out of my head. Would Dina, Monica, and Frank look the same way if something happened to me? Drew put his hand on my shoulder. That was a good speech. I sensed only respect in his voice. Thank you, I mean it. Come on, it's time to go. We've got work to do. He was right, we had work to do. So much more to do. I realized that the rain had stopped, and I looked up. The black clouds slowly dispersed, and sunbeams enlightened our surroundings. Someone once said, even the darkest night will end, and the sun will rise. Hope was still on the horizon. Poem book, some news. They are afraid of hope, but our songs will be sung. A huge crowd of mourners, including President Rain. Okay. With hundreds of police officers in riot gear on duty. Let's play from Lee Spear. Unifying message to all of Swordland by attending the funeral. He paid his respects to Circus and met with close relatives. Speech that touched thousands of attendees. He finished the speech with a quote from Circus. They did not let us sing our songs. They are afraid of the dawn, but they are afraid of hope. But our songs will be sung. Okay. Farewell to Bernard Circus. New area. Okay, let's see what the radical says. Earlier in the day, mourners of Holsford gathered in Malmös took place in Dare. With tight security, white drugs were released in the air in much of the downtown area. President Rain was among the thousands who attended the funeral. This is a positive indicator that gives us hope that the state might finally be giving up on a lynching culture and starting to practice self-criticism. Circus's murder was stirred debate about nationalism in Sutherland and has all been viewed with concern abroad, especially Malvinist bloc to the east. Okay. It seems like that was well handled. What's going on here? Briefing on current diplomatic situation. Under construction. Any other things? No? Okay. It's just the briefing on current diplomatic situation. The door opened and David Whiskey, once a lecturer to me, now the Minister of Foreign Affairs, gently made his way towards my desk. May I sit down, Mr. President? Leave the formalities aside, David. No, I think it's a set map. It's just it's a fictional world, but clearly inspired by Eastern Europe. So welcome, Quasi-Stellar. Haven't seen you in a while. Once a lecturer to me, now the Minister of Foreign Affairs, gently made his way. Leave the formalities aside, David. Please take a seat. Of course, it is a pleasure to see you, Mr. Whiskey. Alright, Tauntaun, I'm used to titles. Diplomacy jobs train oneself. He slowly sat down, taking care not to aggravate the arthritis in his knees. He'd always had an air of gravitas about him, and old age had only served to deepen that. After he settled himself, he regarded me with delight, his blue eyes sparkling. Look at you, Anton, the 4th president of Slogland. What a privilege for me. I still remember the first day you took my class at Dare University of Culture. I remember how hard we worked on the Agnolia trade agreement together. Countless late nights at the ministry to finalize. It was an experience for sure. Yeah, you can make your own. You get to customize the portrait. I always perhaps inspired by some figures in Russian history. Countless late nights at the ministry to finalize. It was an experience for sure. We signed our best trade deal yet, with a good slew of trade advantages over Agnolia. It was even somewhat unfair from my point of view. Somehow, the inexplicable ebb and flow of life has led us here, positions where we can change the course of history. Everything happens for a reason, David. It was meant to be. We got a little lucky, that's all. This is our opportunity to shape the future, and we'll do precisely that. I am looking forward to our new foreign policy. I'm excited to present to you the latest bill that I'm working on. The TCPA has turned out to be an initiative that may significantly boost our tourism and culture industry. This untapped valley would help us promote our position internationally. I'm convinced that it can help improve our economic condition after discussions with the ministers Hole and Manger. Factions are supportive too. I really shouldn't have worked overtime hours to get it done, but I do really care for the position value of our culture. Started coughing again, this time for longer. Would you like some tea or water? Oh, yes, please. Tea and water sounds nice. Thank you very much. He smiled. Olivia brought 2 cups of tea along with a glass of water and placed them on the table. It seems you still remember how much I like tea. Nowadays, it really does wonders for my throat. How's your wife Catherine doing? My lovely Catherine is as energetic as always. Age has hit me harder for her than her for sure. She still does her daily jogs, unlike me. Nothing can challenge time. Nothing. How is the Rain family? We are slowly starting to get used to the routine. Monica is really taking to the face lady role. The door opened. Joseph and Lucian joined us for the briefing as a tall case clock hit the hour mark. Peter, however, was missing. I wonder if he was late from all the drinking he did at the party in Lakoven. We'll talk more later, President Rain. Welcome, everyone. How was your travel to Lakoven? A little bumpy due to some turbulence. I arrived via a military cargo plane that landed at Lakoven International. Yeah, Joseph Potato. Took the train. It was a little slow, but I can still recommend it for the beautiful landscape. I also had the possibility to work on a couple things during the ride. Well, and since Mr. Victorine doesn't seem to be coming today, I think we are ready to start. I'll start by providing a brief overview of our current status with our neighbors. What would you like to start with? I'd like to hear about Agnolia. Our brotherly nation to our northeast, Agnolia. They are still diplomatically not aligned and probably has one of the most democratic systems between our neighbors. Economic stagnation is a worry for them. The primary issue is their heavy reliance on foreign investment from us. Agnolia is our most friendly neighbor. We have been allies for the longest time after Rumburg annexed Dome. This fact needs to be part of the equation. Unsurprisingly, the Agnolian Prime Minister, Martin van Horten, is expecting better cooperation through a new fair trade deal with us. It was one of his election mandates. We'll think about his request. The matter is still on the table. A more comprehensive trade deal sounds beneficial to all sides. Both sides could gain. Yeah, it is pretty good. Both sides could gain from it, but Agnolia has more to win than us. They want to protect their weaker industries, which we are profiting from selling our goods to. Additionally, the latest numbers indicate that currently 1 million Agno-sorted citizens live in the Angland region of Swordland. It creates a link between our foreign policy and internal affairs. These people have suffered socially economically, which led them to crime and other problems. In addition, a relaxed immigration policy was one of Agnolia's main requests, which is unacceptable. Most of the migrants in our country haven't even assimilated into Swordist culture. Adding more won't help. I'm skeptical about relaxed immigration. We should be. We have already witnessed several societies shifting waves of migration. We should remember that we promised to tighten our immigration laws in the election campaign. I want to know more about Volgsland. Our cousins of old across the Markian Sea wish to have good relations with us. As we all know, Volgsland is a socialist republic aligned with United Contana. They are an important regional player. It's also the most significant sea power in almost all of Mercopa. Is the only country that can rival the superpowers with their navy. We had hostile relations with them after several wars in the 19th century, which we wouldn't want to experience again. Recently, the relationship has warmed up thanks to Emmerich Hegel, their current guy. As a result, diplomatic talks can be conducted in the future. It's not easy to forget about the Great Fire of Conriat. Thousands of lives were lost someday. Breaking the ice in Volgsland could be good if we are to rise diplomatically. We shouldn't take any sides between regional powers. Let's go with breaking the ice. I agree. There could be potential allies, in my opinion. The situation in the region necessitates that we find allies. They haven't been in good standing with us for the past 200 years. Recently, they have also joined the communist Contana Security Pact, subjugating themselves to United Contana. On top of that, territorial issues have been flaring up between Agnolian and Volgsland because of the Hayland Island. The Swedish Navy is very concerned with this volatile situation. Lucian looked slightly worried. Unfortunately, billions of Swedish yen worth of cargo was transported close to Volgsland maritime borders on the Markian Sea and Grey Strait. This causes significant risks to our imports and exports in the case of deterioration in relations. The strait is of high strategic value to us. Joseph, the Navy is keeping an eye on the situation from a distance, right? We are actively monitoring the sea routes and cargo ships for now. There is no immediate threat, but we don't know what can happen in the future. What's the latest situation in Welland? It is tumultuous in the south, as always. Richter Smolak, current president of Welland, Commander-in-Chief of the Wessex Armed Forces. Okay. He's quite positive about the normalization of relationships between our country. Despite purging the Wessex communists, reports indicate that they have been warming up to the Contanan international aid. As you know, Welland's stability has always been a concern for the region. If we want to help them, we must not treat refugees like we did in the 30s. I still can't stomach the inhumanity those people suffered. A trade agreement with them would improve stability and increase mutual trade. There would be many bargaining chips discussed, but Welland could be a new partner in the region. We would also invest in stability there. Our main goal should be to avoid a refugee crisis, like the late 1920s. That civil war had a major security and economic repercussion on Swedish soil. One of the demands of President Smolak was to tighten our immigration laws so the political refugees don't escape to Swordland. That pushed many Bludish to flee to Bergia. It is definitely troubling. Gummarin Outpost has regained its importance due to this. I am sure you'd remember that winter at the border outpost, Mr. President. He was right, I did remember that winter. I remember how cold it was when I let the refugees slip through. No, spending the rest of my service cleaning toilets and sleeping in cells. By Major Joseph Lancy. In fact, there's been a similar refugee situation in the past. Even Mr. President himself chose to obey direct orders from his commanding officer at the time. I was young and I made a mistake. Past is past. Well, let's move on. Our focus should be on current matters. The Bludish minority is very large inside Welland too, which is a factor to consider. It is in our national interest to prevent the formation of a failed state on our western border. Welland has been increasingly aligning itself towards the Commons Alliance, another point to analyze. Let's move on. Two important neighboring countries remain, Lesbia and Rumburg. Which would you like to hear about first? What about Lesbia? Our southern neighbor is aligning itself more and more with Arcasia. Lesbia is currently led by Prime Minister Patricio Alvarez. They are the jewel of the continent and the second largest economy in eastern Maricopa. Though wealthy, Lesbia suffers from excessive economic inequality. Our past relationships have been great, but during the last decade, their investments in Switzerland dwindled due to our instability. Allying with the sleeping giant. We should not awake them. Allying with the richest regional nation could be beneficial. It could be, but it would also mean that we would draw closer to Arcasia bloc near the Arcasian Treaty Organization. I am certain that the recession has a lot to do with the retraction of investment. Once they see that money isn't in the picture, they vanish rather quickly, because they are capitalists. They have shown a selfish attitude during the Welland Civil War by closing their borders and following refugees to cross into Swordland. Our values are too different, Lesbia. It will be hard to see eye to eye. The capitalism of Lesbia is inspirational to me. Look at their economic power. Everything comes at a cost. The cost is wealth inequality, but business people are getting richer and richer. There are hundreds of very privileged oligarchs who invest inside and outside of Lesbia. Some have made significant business investments in cities of Benfi and Valgen. What is the situation with Rumburg? Now to the most troublesome nation, Rumburg, a constitutional monarchy led by Queen Beatrice Livingston. Okay. I highly advise caution and calculated action against Rumburg. Our military must be prepared. The threat is real. They are strong and have the motivation, as well as the means, to damage us. We shouldn't give them any reason to pursue aggression. Rumburg is and always will be a roguelike state. Nothing can be done about them. We must prevent them from interfering in our affairs. I'll take your advice into consideration. These types of nations will always try to make a casus belli a reason to declare war. Well, Thornborough openly denies such claims. Their past and current actions make it clear that they want to destabilize us. The weapons caches found by our intelligence agency clearly shows that their goals are: our military must be steadfast and our diplomacy valiant. Rumburg threat is one of our top priorities. You can be assured of that. We're always in dialogue with the ambassador. Make sure there's a thing. Could use their aggressive attitude against them by convincing the international community. Should grab the Lacovan Times newspaper and put his finger on the article about the latest diplomatic incident. Their abrupt announcement about the closure of Rumburg consulate in Lacovan is yet another step in their escalation. This covers the overview of the current situation. We'll move on to our trade choices and the response to Rumburg's diplomatic escalation. He was ready to give advice on the new trade initiatives. Peter arrived late. He looked a little rougher than usual. Must have been drinking from last night. Hey there, folks. Excuse my delay. I'm sure I didn't miss anything we didn't already know. You were still supposed to be a part of this meeting an hour ago. Punctuality is important. We were talking about serious subjects here. To have a point, Peter. We should have discipline in the cabinet. Do we cover for our pal? Do we reprimand him? Or we just leave it be? Cover for our friend? Okay. Peter was assigned a task. Yes. It went successfully for Peter's tone was more serious. Expect a report on your desk tomorrow. The Vice President will be part of the trade delegation, so it will be great to have his input on that subject as well as the Runberg incident. Rumberg, Consul Sir Bran Harrington announced the closure of a 120-year-old consulate. Now the diplomatic staff is leaving the city to go back to Thornborough. He blamed the lack of security in Swordland due to the assassination and the subsequent protests, but it's obvious that they are making excuses. Bastards. First they close their consulate, and then they blame our security. Security situations under control. Their concerns could be genuine, but this reaction is unnecessary. Agreed. Other diplomatic missions have worked with our security units to increase protection of staff and buildings. Neglect of President Alfonso and the chaos of the elections delayed our diplomatic efforts. Now, there are only 2 rumbling diplomatic missions left in Swordland. One is the consulate in Dare, the other is in the embassy in Holsword. We are accustomed to the usual rhetoric, but this is far more serious. They're playing with fire. Look at what the Welland destabilization has done to the region. Swordland breaking apart would tear Marcopa apart. In my entire career, I have never seen our Rumberg relations suffer this much. The previous lowest point was the annexation of Dome. No. This event that occurred in the early 1920s. Boiling point with the death of the King Alfred Livingston. Coercion of Queen Beatrice immediately devised an overwhelming night invasion to the city of Dome, which took defenses by surprise. Thousands of lives were lost on both sides. Okay. There are worrying developments like smuggled arms and build up near the border. Our military must be buffed up against a great threat like Rumberg. We either respond to this aggressive act with a diplomatic condemnation, or we retaliate by closing our consulate in Dome. I want to say that an escalation would be risky this early in our presidency. We should focus on creating a negative image of Rumberg in the international scene. The people of Swordland must be protected, no matter the cost. I say we respond equally. Retaliate by closing the Swordland consulate in Dome. They think they can bully us. They were never so wrong. Write an official diplomatic response condemning this unreasonable act. Declare that Rumberg aims to destabilize Swordland in the region. Oh dear. Which one do we do? Let's go with number 2. Immediately informing the blah blah blah. Okay. Swaying the international stage is the key in the long-term strategy. I wish we had reacted more strongly, but if we don't confront them, they will keep escalating the situation. I, on the other hand, am glad that we are taking the more cautious road. There are 3 trade-related topics to address today. Which topic should we tackle first? Let's talk about our trade negotiations with Welland and Agnolia. Our primary goal will be successfully sign at least one trade agreement with one of our smaller neighbors. We have 2 options with our trade initiative, starting with new negotiations with our old partner Agnolia, and forming a new cooperation with Welland to the west. Tell me about trade with Agnolia. First off, the reason behind this option is more diplomatic than economic, although of course we can't forego the added economic value. Agnolia is an old ally and a valuable trade partner. The point we are at with the early negotiations is around the steel trade. They are demanding that we buy their steel for a higher price. That is because they think the deal is far too unbalanced as it is. Their second main demand is a privileged access to our agricultural market. If we are to fulfill their demands in return, they are offering a full alliance with Switzerland against Rumburg. Looking at the current advances of Ruggenberg near our borders, having a coalition against Rumburg could prove extremely useful. Obviously, there will be consequences for entering a full alliance, mainly the issues around Hellian and Volk. Hull Island. An island located... Empire of Volgos. Okay, so Agnolia occupies this island. Has clear intentions of taking over the island one way or another, and entering a military alliance with Agnolia will make them furious. I want to state my support for the decision to stick to our old ally, Agnolia, even though I disagree with their demand to relax immigration. We have cooperated with them on many issues in the past. Agnolia is a solid partner for us. David and the President worked on the previous comprehensive trade agreement in the 30s. There are obviously subjects that we still need to tackle, like our economies, and trade goods, and what to do with immigration. Is that this is a good deal, and we should go for it. The new Agnolian Prime Minister is trying to improve the existing relationship. The downside is that we would need to make concessions, a reality of any trade deal. I would be open to creating a new agreement that would satisfy all sides. That would be the best outcome. Yeah, I also think so. If you decide that Agnolia is a good option, another point is that they have a very democratic system. After the recent elections, the PM has a mandate to arrange a fair deal with us. There's also an added supporter of relaxed immigration. Since we said we will tighten immigration, he might be reluctant. Starting the highway construction in England plays a part too. Regardless, if we are going to increase our regional influence to previous levels, we might need to make amends with our neighbors. A little bit up to you as always. Then you'll trade with Welland. Dealing with a fractured country like Welland has its positives and negatives. Although it will be lucrative in the short term, there are risks associated with dealing with such a country. Co-investment projects and a no-tariff agreement. They are also offering oil in return for attracting foreign capital interests from Swordland. However, it is possible that there will be international ramifications of getting closer to a country like Welland. All in all, this is a very lucrative deal for us, however, we need to think about the consequences. I certainly don't support the decision to become friendlier with Welland. We carried their burden for decades, their migrants flooded our country, and now they are expecting a deal from us. Maintaining influence with Welland would prove useful. Yes, it is risky, but I think our influence on an undeveloped region like that, we could also sell more products and enter their market easily. It is simply too risky. Yes, we could gain resources and immediate capital, but I'm afraid of the consequences. I mean... So my thoughts here are, if we're able to, help stabilize this country, then we don't get flooded with migrants later on. We don't get to hear about the consequences, though. Republic of Welland. The Gospel of nearest socialism. Following bloody revolution. Well, boom. Civil War. We were to have one of the weakest economies in Eastern Maricopa. So it's rich in resources, but it's kind of like a Congo-like place where even just dealing with them is a bit sketch. Well, let's take some risks. I think the return is too lucrative to pass on, regardless of the risk. The migrant crisis was one of the reasons behind the destabilization of Swordland. I'd like to point out that it was due to Welland. If we wish to go forward with the deal, when the time comes, there's a topic of immigration to consider. Increase the likelihood of the deal. He believes our borders need better security. Or I still don't like the idea of getting too close to Welland. Me too. Agreed. Okay. I still think we should give it a try. So we did not promise on with neither east nor west. It's very likely that the concerns would be more around the deal itself. Our neutrality strategy might ease the tensions with Rumburg, since their primary concern is the strengthening of the superpower blocks. The last handful of monarchies in Maricopa are reactive against the influences of Arcasian capitalism and millennium. We also need to consider the effects of our economic doctrine plan. The fact that we are headed towards a market economy will have an influence. Optimize the interests which make the differences become trivial, allowing both sides to reach a deal. Very true, Mr. Victor. We also have time to prepare before the scheduled visits to Welland and Magnolia. Our trade delegations will begin work towards the end of the year. We expect final negotiations and signing the treaty sometime next year. Okay. Sneered his eyes and stared at him. I'd like to know more about Rizia. Tell me about the Kingdom of Riz. The nation south of Lesbia is a centralized constitutional monarchy led by King Romus Taurus, the grandson blah blah blah. It's a developed nation that wielded considerable influence in the southern Maricopa before the reign of Valero. The country has lost some territory due to internal strife. Alfonso government signed vital trade agreements with King Romus Taurus, benefiting both nations at the time of need. Attempts to further cooperation stalled out due to the king's blood ties to Rumburg. What exactly are these blood ties between Rizia and Rumburg? In the 1930s, King Romus married Princess Lena Livingston, the youngest daughter of King Alfred Livingston and the second sister of Queen Beatrice Livingston. It was a political marriage that benefited Rizia, helping save it from downfall. The two nations are close, to say the least. The Taurus and Livingston families should be considered allies for the time being. However, from a practical standpoint, they are too far from each other to provide military support. Both countries are also part of the worldwide network of monarchies known as Grace. The framework is mostly financial and politically motivated due to the pressures of millennium and democracy. Yeah, I saw that. All these kings and queens disagree more than agree, but they're forced to tolerate each other's differences. Imagine if Coronati and SBC cast the world's remaining monarchies in a soap opera. Yes, it's very much a choose-your-own-adventure style game, but with like political considerations mixed in. Let's stay on point. Sure. Yeah, it's very cool. we should be more concerned with. Peter interjected and reached in his pocket. Actually, a friend of Gus called Rusty gifted me this beautiful piece full of Rizian gold coin. They say it helps you find love. Look. The ornamental coin put it on the table. It was so polished that it caught reflections of the sunlight in the room. Lucian was clearly frustrated. Examine the coin. The center was the emblem of Rezia, a fierce bull standing on 2 feet, its horns pointed upwards. In the background was a shield intricately ornamented with leaves and a crown. At the bottom, the letters RRG were engraved. What is RRG? It's Rizian Royal Gold, the company that mines and processes the high-quality ore used to mint the country's gold. Let's discuss the deal potential. What's on the table? From what we've gathered, there's no clear offer yet. The interest clearly seems to be more control over the gas produced and sold in Swordaland. I suspect this must be related to recent tensions of the Coast of Pales. Okay. Mr. Manger is working out on the details to get more concrete headline terms soon. Of particular interest are the gas fields in Narbel and Nargis region. Okay. Adjusted the law in 94, increased it to 20%. Okay. Good thing we handled the transfer of power within the party diplomatically. I'm sure he will be more open to talk. I see a strong case for Tarkin Sol's regulation. It still sells most of its gas. Yeah, so many people in the party approached me and praised our course of action. They thought USP was fractured enough and didn't need further attention. I'd be more surprised if Alfonso would be willing to concede more due to this fact. I'd still be wary of his and Mr. Manger's intentions. I made a few notes. David coughed a bit and then continued talking. From our diplomatic channels, we can tell that Lesbia is still very interested in Sortis petrol, whereas Rumberg wants more gas resources. As a sovereign nation, we must protect our resources. Our energy independence is part of our national security concern here. Gasum handles most of our gas production. Allowing more market economics to determine the value and output of our energy is aligned with our economic plan. Protect our energy independence, but we don't know the offer specifics less. Potential mistake when our traders use our dependence on them against us. I concur with Misa. There's a distinct possibility. If Rue wants to buy more than 20% of shares allowed by the protectionism laws, then the government can step in to make changes to the APA. Precisely. But we don't know if that will be the case. There is a scenario in which they might invest more within the APA limitations. We just want to hear more before weighing in options. But I always had the feeling that Alfonso's crew was more linked to Gasum than they seemed. I have information from the CEO that replaced Alfonso as a loyalist. The Alfonso still has the chairman of Gasum. Okay. Affluent swords don't stray far from each other. The power structure behind the scenes shouldn't matter much. I suspect the corporation isn't doing too well, and they are seeking investments. Any investment into Gasum will enrich the owners, but might also lead to more jobs and growth. Any further comments, esteemed cabinet members? The room went silent, no one stepped forward. It was noticeable how much people respected Whiskey. He carried the soul of Swordland as the symbol of the past. I think this summarizes all we know, and we stand to gain. Mr. President, what are your thoughts? I look forward towards a potential investment from Rizian into Swordland. There is strong potential for further cooperation, and Rizia previously aided Swordland when it needed foreign help the most. will assist in analyzing the political implications. Thank you, our support staff, and I will be working towards the next steps soon after receiving more context from Mr. Manager. Ambassador is in communication with so-and-so Rizian Counselor of Foreign Affairs already. Well, that concludes our meeting, Mr. Rain. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for coming. Including team disperse, diplomatic action plan officially began. CSP unveils comprehensive Iotake plan for Rika's infrastructure. In a calculated effort to expand its geopolitical sway, Chairman blah 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 unveiled a colossal investment scheme dealing with in Rika's infrastructure, education and education sectors as the continent of Rika emerges as a fresh battleground in the global tug of war ideologies. An increasing number of revolutions embracing millennialism and Volkslandian socialism indicate a shifting landscape. The comprehensive plan lays out investment amounting to 150 billion KS over the next 5 years. Oh, it's a Belt and Road Initiative. I liked millennialism. Oh, that's a good one. Millennialism. Okay, with the initiative, CSP endeavors to portray Rika as a beacon of sustainable development. What's this? Logistical issues. Is there, like, more to this? No? Young swords member claimed links to the government. The detained young swords member in Arvory claimed that he has connections to the local government. We have been investigating the truth of his claims, and we are not able to find any further leads now. Investigations continue. Oh, we should read the news. Remus Holstrom criticizes workers' rights bill. It's the National Front Party. Workers' rights bill. This criticism targets the bill's 5th section, which extends the same rights to migrants that are undocumented workers as to Swedish citizens. Energy Protection Act repeal process begins. The Energy Protection Act was initiated. Volca advocates Franz Richter argue that repeal could stimulate economic growth and foreign investment. Okay. Emergency in Anrica, mayor announces. Troubling news are coming from the mayor of Anrica, who reported that chaos exists in the city, called an emergency directive authorizing him to use his powers. Okay. We're reporting 20 police officers heavily wounded, 2 police burned down, and several shot. What? Lockdown. Alfonso Foundation, a beacon of charity. I have the efforts of the Alfonso Foundation. Income inequality, addressing homelessness. Okay. Calling for an open market, repealing the EPA. Okay. Addressing the skilled foreign worker gap. The demand supply for gap for skilled foreign workers. Okay. Unrest continues. The unrest in the streets is continuing, and the tensions between different groups has led to new clashes, with hundreds wounded, some to several dead a week. One of our teams talked to mentioned the need to strengthen up the political system that needs to open to reflect the different opinions. Okay. Welfare issues of Narbel. Okay. We need democracy. We've long demanded expansion of civil rights, reforms to modernize our nation. For not allowing reforms, the opposition was quick to point out the flaws within the Constitution and brought focus on reforming blah blah blah. Our current president, somebody has to break the cycle and write the Constitution made by Tarkin Sol, whose cult of personality has shaped our current divide. National spirit must be broken. Will President Rain stand up to the establishment and listen to the people? We'll see. Energy tensions escalate in Rizia. Okay. Swordland condemns closure. Sends strongly worded official diplomatic condemnation disabling Swordland surrounding regions. Several nations have made supporting statements for Swordland in the Alliance of Nations. It is clear this letter is not just directed at Rumberg, but to also observing the serious situation. Okay. Alright, what are all these reports? Communist Party of Sondland against Gossam. Okay. Been a picket line in the city. The two organizations. Sansa's local administration. Blah 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 blah. Tourism Cultural Preservation Act. Read the report. Grand National Assembly's Green Bill. In the Green Bill, with focus on promoting sustainable industry practices, particularly in Grunny. Section 1 of the Act proposes stricter regulations on industrial pollution and waste disposal. It suggests heavy fines for non-compliance, with the collected revenue to be reinvested in environmental recovery projects. Okay. Repeal proposition for the Energy Protection Act. Supported by repeal or modify this law has been topic of debate in the Assembly. Arguing for an open market approach. Okay. Briefing on the results from the Reform Committee. Came a little early to the meeting room before anybody showed up. We had scheduled a meeting to discuss the progress of the Reform Committee regarding the new constitution. We're slowly becoming the most significant expectation of my government. We would be changing Saul's Constitution of 29. Most people nowadays blame the Constitution for the outstanding problems of the country. On the other hand, reformists in the Assembly have been getting louder about their demands. What I knew for sure was that I needed to do something about this emerging chaos before it swallowed me. Meanwhile, Lucien Peter and Nia had been leading the committee to prepare an initial draft of the constitutional amendments. I was intrigued to hear the results. There was a knock at the door. It was Lucien. Good afternoon, sir. Lucien arrived exactly at an hour mark again. His punctuality could almost be described as obsessive. Good afternoon, Lucien. He took a seat on the table and took out a bunch of documents, spreading them over the long table. We should begin the meeting as soon as Miss Morgana and Vice President Decton arrive. We finally have some results from the Reform Committee. How does it look? Well, the situation is quite complicated, but I'm sure we will make it work. just like we accomplished many things before. We'll go over the details regarding the new constitution in the meeting. A few minutes later, Peter and Nia also arrived. After a short chat, everybody sat down, took out their notes, and it was going to be a long meeting. There's a lot to talk about in the future of this process. Let us begin to tackle the points of contention. Mr. President, our committee meetings were really fruitful, and we are already started working on the conditional draft together. They demand a little too much, but we've had success with Franz Richter, Swedish politician, businessman, okay, to create a realistic draft that could potentially go through the Supreme Court. A little, they managed to rewrite the whole Constitution. Mr. Richter's deputy even suggested removing the term sword from this Constitution completely. I also didn't like their theatrics, but their requests were definitely not outrageous. They were just not realistic in today's political circumstances. Nonetheless, Mr. Vice President, thanks for your convincing arguments. We seem to have reached a common ground already. If we can fully reach an agreement with the reformists, we will be very strong on the Assembly to propose this change. Can we reach the 2/3 majority? If you can get Franz Richter to work with you on this, our only problem would be uniting our own party. Well, we'll never be able to get NFP to work with us. We need the majority of our 130 seats in the Assembly to vote in favor. With FEJP's full support of 70 votes, we will easily surpass the needed 166. It will be tough to unite the USP with all the divisive wings that have formed. You must make them follow you loyally. We did it before the elections, we can do it again. Alvin Calvin and his reformist wing would be supporting you. He already weighed in heavily in the committee meetings. However, the Conservatives would be tough to break. The influence of Saul is still living strong in the party. How many votes do they have? The Conservatives have around 40 seats. There are many unaligned people, and some of your loyalists might decide to show their true faces too. So we need as many of the Conservatives to support us, and there is only one person who is key to make them back us. Gloria Torrey. She's well respected by the Solists. She'll be our biggest obstacle in the Assembly, and her demands will be extensive. I also have reason to think she might be in Orso's pocket. She'll be tough to break, but we'll need her help to get the Conservative support. Is it possible to pass the Supreme Court? They are the biggest obstacle. Even if we pass the Assembly, the Chief Justice will do his best to block our amendments. We need at least 6 of the 11 judges to vote for the proposal, but Mr. Hawker has enormous influence over the judges. We should reach out to the judges in secret. Some of them might be willing to break rank to support us. All means are to be considered in order to succeed. They will surely support a just cause for the country and its future. Lucian looks skeptical. According to the Constitution, I am a member of the Supreme Court, which means we already have one vote. 2 of the judges are friends of mine and have similar opinion about the reform. Consider them with me. So we only have 3 votes out of 11. Who else would be willing to support reforms? I think Judge Edmonds can be persuaded, and in extension, Mr. Dalton and Mr. Martin. They aren't really blinded by the Solist ideology. Yes, those 3 don't seem to be working directly with Chief Justice Hawker. If we can get to Isabel Edmonds, we might have the 6 votes needed. That's our best bet. What are the demands? We should run down... Odds of they're getting cooed. Probably well above 0. We should run down each of the main demands of the committee and get your inputs first. Miss Morgana can explain them further. Continue. We'll start with the first red line. The new constitution will fix the loopholes regarding the president's absolute veto powers. Even though Mr. Richter put on a whole show about why vetoes should be completely removed, the committee has almost unanimously agreed on fixing the loopholes, thus limiting presidential vetoes. My suggestion is to add a clause detailing the methods the Assembly may override a veto with some sort of supermajority. one person should never be able to block the rest. I stand in agreement with the loopholes gave the president too much power. Whatever you decide, it is important to get a balanced picture. We'll be making history by changing the 29 Constitution of Saul. The second one is about the judiciary. The new constitution will remove the Supreme Court's right to vote on legislation. This is yet another point that was unanimously agreed by all parties. Tarkin Saul established this rule to protect his 29 Constitution. We all know most of the judges are still his pawns. Constitutional amendments will still be very difficult to accomplish with a reform like this, particularly because we will keep the 2/3 vote system to be able to propose a change. We'll not have a final say in the amendments. Can't disagree with that. We need to support to even pass this thing. Well, why would they support us? Most of them won't, but we already talked about my vote and possible agreement with Isabel, which may change things. Apart from these two critical points, they have other major demands. They want to reform the appointment procedures of the ministers, clarified that the Assembly should have a say in the formation of the Council of Ministers. That is something that a majority in our party also supports. While Mr. Richter also talked about abolishing the Member of Honor rights of Tarkin Saul, that gives him absolute immunity and makes him a permanent member of the Assembly. Well, that is a controversial one. I doubt the USB would like that. The immunity of the justices, the impeachment of the president, limiting the power of the presidential decrees, all this came up during the committee meetings. Yes, reformists expect big reforms, while our faction in USB are not very keen on pushing changes that are too great. I'd say keeping everything in the middle ground is the safest bet. No need to agitate anyone too much. They have valid concerns that we need to look at. I'll keep working with them and keep you updated, Mr. President. Suzerain decides we will need to work together to push this agenda. Now we have a greater picture of your intentions, sir. I will start reaching out to my contacts to make a draft that works for us. I'll present your input to committee. In a few months, you would have to draft on your desk to make the final changes yourself. I think this was yet another fruitful meeting, sir. Your service is appreciated. Together we will democratize Swordland. Your service is appreciated. You can count on us. Yes, Mr. President. And this is where we'll call it, sir. Have a good day. They left the room. Okay, let's read the papers. Minister Manager's Rural Development Vision. Recently unveiled an ambitious investment plan concept aimed at revitalizing Swordland's rural economies and ensuring the nation's food sustainability. Dubbed the Bruni Rural Development Investment, the plan envisions judicious resource allocations to invigorate agricultural communities, strengthen food security, and bolster the regional economy of Grunny. This multifaceted strategy is indicative of a broader shift towards rural development, emphasizing sustainable agriculture and regional prosperity. Cooperation with Rumburg, an economic imperative. Against ongoing geopolitical uncertainties, there's an economic imperative that we can't ignore. The potential of our northern neighbor, Rumburg, known for its vast energy economy and is home to two major corporations, Rizian Oil and Gas and the Royal Emerald Energy, both ripe for collaboration. These energy giants represent not just possibility of wealth generation, but also a means of diplomatic softening, aligning mutual interests to avoid future conflicts. By welcoming partnerships, we ensure that globalization serves as a bridge, not a barrier. Job freeze sparks fears of Gasm's financial stability. Unsettling rumors are spreading about Gasm, one of Swordland's largest corporations, as the company puts a halt on hiring. This unprecedented move, coupled with the lack of usual job openings, has sparked concerns about the company's fiscal stability. Yeah. WD protests electoral bill, growing discontentment over the past electoral campaign finance bill, which has excluded public funding for parties that aren't able to enter the Grand National Assembly. has reached a boiling point when all Workers' Party of Bludia officials and members went out in protest across the country. The new bill will need that the VP lost half of their total party funding since they couldn't pass the high election threshold of 10% to enter the assembly. Aren't eligible at all to receive any public election funding. The establishment are seeking actively to suppress the political representation in this country. Geopolitics. The content and security packs, blah blah blah. Transform Rica's infrastructure, education sectors has drawn mixed reactions globally. Skepticism. Rooted in principles of sustained decentralized economic development, plan seeks to empower local communities and foster equitable growth, yada yada yada. Okay. Oops. Tourism Cultural Preservation Act. Incident at President Sol's mansion on Duru Island. Private boat nearing Tarkin Sol's mansion on Duru Island prompted the Coast Guard to fire warning shots. Despite the initial alarm, former President Tarkin Sol allowed the boat to approach for a brief conversation. There's raised questions about security protocols near the obscure mansion. Details of the conversation remain undisclosed. Construction plans started by Taurus has reported that preparatory work for the H3 highway has already started, including clearing land and demolishing buildings in the path of the future roadway. Construction of the highway will be starting in the next months, working west from Lochavan. Read the report. Nature preservation protests. Is protesting against remaining coal industry, a significant contributor to solar energy. About the environmental impacts of the industry. Okay. Well, let's see what's going on in tourism. Aims to amplify the cultural allure of tourism viability. Push to establish Switzerland as a global tourist destination and reduce the effects of recession. On the cultural elevation of these cities, identifying local food, drink, music, dance, architecture, and historical sites as unique selling propositions. Cultural tourism is positioned as a catalyst for economic invigoration. Imposes restoration, preservation, key historical land sites. Concurrently, it proposes a comprehensive renovation of tourist infrastructure in Banfi to enrich the visitor experience and generate substantial income for local residents. Yeah, let's get those tourist dollars. Economy? Tourism industry booming nationwide. Switzerland is experiencing a nationwide boom in tourism, with increased numbers of visitors flocking to explore vibrant cities, historic landmarks, and stunning landscapes. The tourism industry is thriving, significantly contributing to our nation's economy and international profile. See? It was good. Tourism and Cultural Preservation Act signed to a premier global tourist destination. Focuses on cultural elevation, preserving key landmarks, and an enriching visiting experience. Okay, I'm sure the radicals are going to hate this. A step towards progress. Oh, okay. Tourism and Cultural Preservation Act. The country takes a significant stride towards progress. The act amplifies the cultural allure of Switzerland and aims to position it as a global tourist destination. Praise the foolish. This progressive legislation paves the way for economic recovery and cultural regulation. Oh, the radicals actually like it. Nice. But also our budget is almost gone. So the economy is still in danger. Let's meet with Orso here. The administration has been working day and night on the overwhelming amount of issues that are facing the country. I went with the highway. Various government departments were sending me an avalanche of documents, which required me to my signature if they could serve blah blah blah. Close my eyes for relax. Another long day. Even though I couldn't wait to leave the palace for the day, Lucian had earlier told me that the Chief Justice wanted to speak with me. We were to meet in my office in 30 minutes. I waited for him, wondering what he wanted to talk about. Let's enjoy a whiskey. I poured some whiskey for myself, and I took a sip. It eased my mind a little. Suddenly, I heard a knock at the door. It was Lucian. Good evening, sir. Well, I wanted to develop the north, and I figured it would allow us to trade with a neighboring country. So I thought it might give us a greater return on our investment. Good evening, Lucian. Good to see you. Good to see you too, sir. I'm sorry that I couldn't explain the situation to you in detail earlier, sir. Chief Justice insisted on seeing you this evening. I do not know what he has to say, but it will probably be about the new constitution. He will be coming shortly with Judge Garaki to the meeting. We shouldn't take them lightly. We may be able to cooperate with them. I advise against that, sir. I do not trust the Chief Justice. We should... There were 3 knocks at the door. Lucian checked his watch. He looked rather worried. Olivia opened the door. Chief Justice Orso Hawker and Judge Hiram Garachi entered the rooms. Good evening, Mr. President. It's great to see you. Evening. Welcome, Justice Garachi and Chief Justice Hawker. Good to see you indeed. Orso adjusted to the sofa in the office. May I? Please, let's have a seat, gentlemen. We all took our seats on 2 opposite sofas and made ourselves comfortable. Orso glanced at the glass of whiskey. Celebrating something, Mr. President? Forgive me, would you also like to have a drink? Oh, thank you. Immediately, thank you. How's your first couple of months, Mr. President? I hope you're faring well. No need to worry, Mr. Garachi. I'm doing well, no need to worry. Thank you. It's very busy, but I'm doing good. It'll only get busier. I think you're doing a good job so far. Considering all that's happening around us, with the shooting near the palace and the soldiers on our borders, let out a deep sigh. It is a troubling time, and we appreciate your concerns. So, you probably know why we are here. Please enlighten us, Mr. Hawker. We know you're working on a new constitution. The Supreme Court does not approve of this. With all due respect, the constitution needs to be updated, sir. I'm sure you are well aware of the public demand in our circumstances. Is that so? I see that you are the one who is not aware of our actual circumstances. We want to make a weaker constitution in the midst of problems from both inside and outside. Even if your proposal passes the Assembly, I will make sure it will not pass the Supreme Court. That much is clear. You haven't even seen the proposal yet, Mr. Hawker. Isn't it too soon to be against it? Do you think I live under a rock, Mr. President? I know what goes on. But you, Mr. President, seem to be only partially informed about the current situation. Please let us explain the reasons for our stance. Oh, please explain. We are protecting the Constitution because it works. Mr. President, it is efficient and it gives you the authority to lead the nation with swift decisions. Swordland has more important problems and threats that we should face right now instead of nitpicking about some paragraphs of the Constitution. We have a potential war within our borders. Orson signaled Heron with his hand to let him speak instead. Mr. President, I know that you are a busy man, so I'll make this quick. We all know that Swordlish security forces found stashes of Rumburgian weaponry in the hideouts of British separatists, roaming inside Swordland at this very moment. Calcington Automatica. Okay. As much as Rumburg poses a direct threat, now it's clear that they are also intervening in our country and weaponizing our minorities against us. It's not unprecedented to think that the Bloods will start their terror again with their new toys. Not to mention the fights that broke out between the left and right wing after the shooting of Bernard Circus. Communists are rising with the support of the United Contana. Chaos is imminent for Swordland. I hate Suzerain Anonymous? Maybe. Hi, welcome SGs, welcome. And sadly, we don't see the administration taking the necessary precautions. You said you will not focus on the military during your term. Under current circumstances, that cannot be tolerated at any cost. Mr. Hawker, the court has no jurisdiction over these matters. We are taking the necessary steps, no need to worry. We are taking the necessary steps, no need to worry. We hope that our police forces and our military is adequately funded during these times of conflict. But regardless of that, are you also aware that the armed Bloodish separatists have direct connections with the Workers' Party of Bludia? The Workers' Party is a democratic party, and like the militias, they are not the same. They may claim to have no ties with the separatists, but most of their members used to be part of them before they formed the Workers' Party of Bludia. How about the name, Mr. President? It is not the Workers' Party of Swordland, is it? As far as I am aware, there is no nation called Bludia around here. What is this all about? The only reason they are not in the assembly is because of the electoral threshold. They have gotten quite big. They are clearly getting outside help, and their connections to the paramilitary Bludish force cannot be denied. And all of a sudden, the reformers are trying to decrease the electoral threshold, so that the Bludish separatists can be legitimized in the assembly to achieve their aims of independence. Do you think that's Mr. Richter's intention? I suspect his intentions are grand. But I wish the only issues were Bludish terrorists and Rumburg. The reformists' suggested changes would also bring the communists, who are backed by United Contana, into the assembly. Do you see the pattern yet? You were saying the reformists are working for foreign powers. Haven't you been briefed by your security team? Maybe you should suspect them as well. We should take the necessary messages against communist and Bludish plots, as well as increasing our military budget against possible conflict with Rumburg. And of course, not fall into the traps of the reformists by listening to their demands. They are clearly plotting to weaken the president and our whole administration in order to exploit the situation. Which brings us to some very important information that we have. It's definitely something you need to hear, and it can change absolutely everything. With all due respect, Mr. President, I think this is getting slightly ridiculous. Let the Chief Justice talk, listen. Of course, sir. The person in question is Mr. Franz Richter himself, the leader of the reformists. We have enough information to infer that he has ties with Arcasia. Arcasia is aggressively growing their influence around the world, and now we see Mr. Richter coming up with these ridiculous demands for a new constitution amidst a chaotic period in Swordland. All the pieces seem to fit perfectly. This is why the Supreme Court will be doing what it takes to stop these reforms and preserve the Constitution. How would you know that Mr. Richter has ties to Arcasia? Mr. Gallade, we all know he has been in Arcasia many times. He's gone there, therefore he's a pawn, because it's been documented. But what would you think if I told you he has been making hidden flights to the country? Are these Supreme Court justices, or like conspiracy bloggers? I need to know. I need to know this. Please explain. He was spotted in a hotel in Arcasia last year, where they held the conference on economic development in volatile regions. It's right around that time he started to influence the masses into believing that our constitution is the reason for everything bad. His trip was not documented, nor was he an official guest of the conference. We believe that he had a meeting with President Walker behind closed doors. I also have more photos of him that were taken in Arcasia in different cities. One is from a couple months back. Again, none of this is documented. He also attended another event in Lesbia last week. The Arcasian Ministry of Foreign Affairs was there too. How can any of this be undocumented? We don't know. Smells like Kato interference, yeah. We don't know. Even if he used a private plane, we would be able to get the information of his flights. That means he has people helping him from the outside. Many souls are already following the lead for quite some time, Mr. President. I cannot give away their identities, but I can give you the evidence. He handed me a small file. It contained official documents from the Swedish border guard with highlighted dates that showed no trace of Franz Richter's name. There were clear photos of him taken in the conference in Arcasia, as well as marks by lesbian citizens who had claims blah 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 blah. Okay. There was also an official transcript of one of his speeches where he claimed to be in Benfi on the dates of the conferences in Arcasia where he was spotted. He was just skimmed through the documents with skepticism, which slowly turned to surprise. These seem to be real. Of course they are real, Mr. Gullight. Oops. These seem to suggest that Arcasia is behind the reformists. Their demands will only benefit Arcasia. They want us to have a weaker administration while we face all these threats. This is clearly a plot against Sordland. I bet Rumberg is the part of their plan too. Right. That they are weaponizing our minorities against us around the same time. Now you understand the reason for our current stance. Also our suspicions about your advisors, who clearly have not given you this vital information. Lucien gave him a sharp look. We appreciate the information, Mr. Hawker, but I advise against jumping to conclusions right away. We still need to check the information. There's not much to think or check. This is clearly an emergency. In this case, the Constitution gives the President the right to use his emergency powers. If we work together, you can be sure that the Supreme Court will not block your declaration of emergency. You want me to declare an emergency? Of course, we cannot wait for the processes of the Assembly to take care of these issues. You must exercise your presidential powers for a fast and effective solution. Which means we might need to suspend the parts of the Constitution to give more authority to our security forces to deal with these issues. We must officially investigate Mr. Richter as well. You can devise a strong security decree if you can base it on the Articles 57 and 58, which gives the President the right to suspend parts of the Constitution to deal with the national security threats. You could directly bypass the Assembly in such a situation. The only thing you need is the Supreme Court to allow the emergency to be declared, and you have our word on that. Sir, I think this is going a bit too far. We shouldn't escalate things so fast. Mr. President, why don't we talk in private, just the two of us? We can devise a plan together. I know how we can use the Constitution to our advantage. It would be more effective if Mr. Gullight and Mr. Garachi leave the room before we discuss it. Sir, I advise against it. I like your idea, Mr. Hawker, but I'd rather plan it together. Regardless of our situation, I'll be proceeding with the reforms. I like your idea, Mr. Hawker, but I'd rather plan it together. I still want to do the reforms. But it awfully sounds like we have a State Preservation Committee situation coming up here. And the Supreme Court justices are going to coup me. Could you leave us alone with Mr. Hawker, gentlemen? So, Mr. President, if you stop the Reform Committee meetings immediately and focus on real threats, I will guarantee you we will manage to reform us together. You must eliminate these threats, both internal and external. An emergency act can help you do that, or you cannot trust anyone in the administration either. How can we fight against these threats with an emergency act? We have the power to give you more authority to the police with their search warrants, suspicion-based arrest, detention without trials, as well as banning and threatening nation citizens from entering Sutherland. Okay. May modify and suspend parts of the Constitution. This is kind of a gray area. States that no state shall, in the case of a national emergency, modify or suspend the rights of freedoms defined in Article 100. If we want to give the police more authority, we might need to modify rights of freedom, but we're not under invasion. That is correct. However, the section where it states that actually invaded or in such imminent danger will not admit to delay can be up to interpretation. We are definitely under such imminent danger because of Rumberg. Not to mention United Continental support for a communist coup in Sordland, as well as Franz Richter's involvement with Arcadia, which is definitely connected to all these problems. That is up to the Supreme Court to decide, so that is not a problem. According to the Constitution, only the President and the Grand National Assembly can revoke the emergency after it is declared. That is correct. However, as long as their party is in line, they will never have a majority to revoke it immediately, so no, they cannot simply revoke it. How can we effectively silence the opposition? We may need to increase surveillance on our political rivals. This is Mr. Rector. I would allow you to arrest people as necessary, such as rectors. What is the investigation? Can't find anything incriminating. The information that I gave you can be enough, depending on what the parts of the Constitution you'll modify. In an emergency, anything is possible, Mr. President. The Supreme Court will decide your decisions. Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Harker, but I won't be going ahead with this. Thought you wanted to plan our move. Just wanted to hear your plan, and now I've heard it. What is the meaning of this? You will instead push on your reforms then? It seems you are part of the conspiracy after all. There is no conspiracy but yours, Mr. Hawker. Good God. I hope Swordland's future is not bleak. Good luck with your reforms, Mr. President. You made a big mistake. Quickly got off the couch and moves towards the door. Don't walk out on me, Mr. Hawker. You already did that, Mr. President. Have a good evening. He left the room. Well, that didn't go well. News. Hawker in Maroon Palace has been spotted entering Maroon Palace. By the timing it happened right after the increased conversation against so-called democratic reform. For official business, and this was certainly an unplanned visit. Something to do with the reforms. More to come on this later. Okay. Well, time to continue. Trials of Democracy. Well, there's lots of news. Red Youth rises, warning bells for Swordland. Recent activities of the Red Youth seen rallying in Narvel. The alarm bells ring. Sudden visibility of a group known for its radical politics. Ideology raises concerns about potential threats to Swordland's national stability. School poisoning in Rebel. Police have arrested the principal of a high school in Rebel, Southern Bergia, where 12 students died after a free meal laced with pesticide. Ugh. Okay. Upcoming government budget changes. As the top economy experts in the country, we have been watching the upcoming changes to the government budget very closely. First, an internal economic challenge lies ahead. Diverting funding to certain governmental branches has always been a point of contention. Warning a leader is no different in this case. We will see if President Rain can hold on to promises he has given during the election campaign. Workers' Union put pressure for promised benefits. Okay. United in protests. Naribel. Okay. Time for women to stand up. Okay. Campaign, all blah blah blah. Questions of solace education. Okay. Grace nations unite to counter ideological influences, forge parallel financial order. Okay. One key initiatives, establish the Joint Development Bank to finance. Okay. Van Horten blames Loudsland for the missing fishing vessel. Okay. Ankara emerges as buffer zone and global trade power. Okay. Well, we'll start reading these things. Widespread protests. Can't seem to get rid of these widespread protests. Communist books burn in Boran. Local residents gathered thousands of books. They claim to be spreading communist and Milleninist propaganda at the Century Park in Boran. Slogans targeting red youth, workers, The youth groups of the local party offices of the USP and FP also joined in the burning. The fire department was dispatched to protests dispersed on their own. Okay. Bluish resistance in the sanctuaries. Burgeon security forces have arrested 3 priests at 2 different Nuridi sanctuaries. Wanted to pray in peace, but instead found himself invited to join the Bluish Freedom Front by state-sanctioned priest. Article reports lack of hospitals. Okay. Recession hits farmers again. Farming industry. Lack of buyers. Highways still under construction. Historical tourism, perfect. Widespread protests. Young Swords and FP flags burned. I guess the Young Swords led by a local politician. Okay. Barbecue with Frank. Read the report. Was staged contentious debate today. Repeal the energy. This would foster economic growth. Alright, let's go to the barbecue. It's like a Saturday afternoon. First break from work in what felt like years. And the weather couldn't have been more perfect. Monica and Dina were out shopping for craft supplies, and I'd given the staff the day off. It was just myself and Frank at home. I wasn't sure how we felt about the moment, but I did know how he felt about barbecuing ribs. Our cook had left some marinating in the refrigerator. Sure enough, as soon as Frank glimpsed the grill and the meat, he stepped outside to join me. Well, look who's finally come out of his room. Quality time with the old man? Sure, if you can spare a few minutes out of your busy schedule. Children who talk back to their fathers don't get dinners. Look, son, I'm preoccupied with matters of national importance. I haven't been around very often lately, but I'm happy to see you now. It's okay. I know you've got the most stressful job in the country, and you've got to feed your family on top of it all. We both chuckled. I turned to tend to the fire. Here, let me try. I grabbed the fan and started quickly waving over the coils. The flames rode to life. Good job. Thank you, sir. To follow the duties with precision, the grilling shall commence at exactly 1 minute 32 seconds. That was a spot-on impersonation of Lucien. We both looked at each other for a second and burst out laughing. Realized my throat was parched. There was a 6-pack of beer in the kitchen. Frank, can you get me a beer? Why don't you grab us a couple of beers? You mean I can? But Mom told me. He stopped himself, quickly ran inside, and returned with 2 beers. Cracked them open. How old is our son? Unknown. But he looks like he's well into his teens. Clinked the bottles and gazed out at the city star. Flashed back to my childhood and my relationship with my own father. My father was a rich man. We never had to worry about food, clothes, or anything else. Yet he was nearly always away, and constantly distracted on the rare occasions when he was at home. Now that I was president, I was worried that I would end up just like my father, distant and absent from Frank's life. Dad, can I ask you something? We are family. You can ask me anything. It's just, I feel like there's so much you've been hiding from me about your past, about what's going on right now. Like at dinner that night after the ball, you told me everything was under control, but it wasn't, was it? I know what happened in the 20s. We learned all about that in school. Now with the protests and the riots, is it going to be the same thing? Ah, welcome, Kaladin. Bribes and beers. Dad, is there going to be a civil war in Swortland? No, I will never let that happen. I hope not. Leto sigh. But what was it like back then? Uncle Peter said the two of you went through a lot. I'm not a kid anymore, you can tell me. Big before I could gather my thoughts, the familiar images started flashing before my eyes. Images of soldiers advancing towards me and my friends, weapons drawn, of people I knew, friends and neighbors being dragged through the streets and murdered in alleyways. The shock and grief on the faces of Polly's mothers and orphaned children. Those were dark times. It seems like it. But you're nearly a grown man. Let's talk about it. It's not a problem. It's embezzling and free. Frank leaned forward in his chair, his eyes wide. Tell Frank about the coup in 1927. It was time to tell him about the coup of 1927. I was barely older than you are now. Studying history at the Dare University of Culture, I was a freshman, excited and young. I had just left the classroom. Go back home. So I realized they were military camouflage trucks and tanks carrying hundreds of soldiers. The same soldiers that were supposed to protect Swortland citizens pointed their guns at us. Immediately took control of facilities. One of my friends asked what was going on and was arrested immediately. More people got angry and gathered in protest. That's right, we need the trucks to handle all of our funds, which will be given to the people. Tell them about the soldiers beating you. I was there with the protesters as they declared martial law. We marched towards them. They threatened to use force, but we stood our ground. Slowly they started beating anyone they saw, including me. The physical wounds took a few weeks to heal, but the mental scars have stayed with me to this day. I was lucky. I was still one of the lucky ones. Some of my friends were shot. Many more were arrested. I can't forget the screams to this day. Tell Frank about the Civil War. It was time to tell him about the Civil War. It was right after I met your mother. We'd both joined the student council to push for change after the coup of 27, but over the next year the state of Swortland deteriorated. People started picking sides, and I tried to stay away as much as I could. Tell Frank about the clash between Luderin and Rickard. There was one night it happened. 2 different factions in the army, one of them led by Maximus General Luderin, and the other by Socialist General Rickard, started fighting against each other. It was a bloodbath. Nowhere was safe. Visibly uncomfortable, I stayed out of it. People organized protests either for or against Rickard. I heard about the clashes the next day. Many of my friends were shot or arrested. I isolated myself for months. That's enough for today. It's okay. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have asked you about it. I know I don't understand how easy my life is sometimes. One more thing, though. I know that you managed not to take any sides. Do you mind if I asked why? I didn't want to be part of the violence. They are two sides of the same coin. Yes, I like it quite a lot, Kellen. Frank raised his eyebrows, his curiosity still not satisfied, but sensing my reluctance to go on, he simply nodded. Sorry for bombarding you with questions. I know I complain sometimes, but my problems are nothing compared to what you went through. I'm here to listen to them, no matter what they are. Before Frank could say anything, I heard the front door unlock, Dina and Monica's voices, and the sounds of rustling shopping bags filled the house. I'll be upstairs until dinner. I hoped that talking to Frank about my past had been the right decision. Part of me felt as if some of the sort of burden had been lifted. But I had the same nightmares again that night. Alright. So I decided to turn down the Supreme Court's offer to launch a state of emergency to purge our internal enemies, and instead said I would push forward with reforms. So I've probably significantly increased my chances of being cooed. But let's read the news. Green Act, a misdirected effort. The Green Act, heavily backed by PFJP, seems to be out of touch with the prevailing political climate in the country. It suggests a disconnect between policymakers and ordinary sort of citizen. RPG. Led by Franz Richter. Okay. Attackers opened fire on protesters, 17 dead, during a protest march organized by the Communist Party. Killed himself right after shooting 25 people, killing 16. Okay. Tourism bill signing deserves applause. The signing of the Swordland Tourism and Cultural Preservation Act by President Anton Rain marks a monumental step in the right direction. Swordland's cultural... Blah, blah. Yes, thank you, supportive press. Green, a threat to growth. The newly proposed Green Act, aimed at nurturing sustainable industrial approach of the Groonie, raises blah blah blah. Proposed tax breaks for reducing environmental appear attractive. They might not compensate for the costs of stricter regulation. Gaslam in turmoil, a leadership crisis. Down with the recent financial crisis facing Gaslam, one of the pillars of Swordland's economy, highlights a glaring issue at its helm. Our investigation reveals disconcerting narrative of mismanagement spearheaded by Edwald Alfonso. Okay. Rizian Oil and Gas expressed interest in Gaslam. Rizian Oil and Gas, a leading player in the global energy sector, an interest in investing in Gaslam. Significant implications for well, this is potential investment where you raise concerns about foreign influence. It also offers a welcome capital injection for Gaslam. Okay, yes. Surely the Rizians are not a problem. One of the most anticipated matches between soccer clubs, postponed due to protests. Okay, radicals. There's a tie-in to the Rizia DLC, which is the superior Suzerain experience. Proposed Green Act, championed by forward-thinking members of the Assembly. The act is signed by President Rain, would introduce stricter regulations on industrial pollution, waste disposal, providing a much-needed push towards environmental responsibility. Blah, 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 blah. Undemocratic elections of Swordland. Yeah, okay. Geopolitics. CSP workers reports under scrutiny. Sort of claims of surpassing global standards in terms of minimum wages and unionization rates as a contention. Blah. Naraka is taking strategic steps towards diversifying its economic portfolio. It used to be charting an innovative path by expressing commitment to financial support to nations outside of the ambit, blah blah blah. There was fostering global neutrality. Okay, cool. The Arcasian Treaty Organization, ATO, pledges financial and military aid to Agnolia. Oh. Treaty Organization has committed significant financial and military aid to Agnolia, located in the heart of Eastern Marcopa. Hmm. Okay. That's not good. Because we're kind of tied to Agnolia. And Wenberg does not like us being tied to tied to superpowers, so yeah, that seems less than ideal. Morna, low industrial output. Okay. Morna industrial output concerns. They're requesting additional support to improve their industrial capacity. According to current projection, data reporting municipalities suggest that an investment worth several billion of SR will stop a downward trend. Okay. Prisoners riot in Antil prison. She was eventually suppressed. Word C is generally used for keeping political prisoners, and the riot started when a warden was killed by brutish political prisoner. 4 guards and 21 prisoners died, 134 injured. Jeez, okay. What's going on in Narble? Presidential visit to Narble. What's the Kingdom of Riz got going on? Rizia advocates for energy partnership. Rizian Oil and Gas has extended a co-investment proposal for Swordlands and Bishop's Chasm. Okay, that sounds good to me. Ulcered. Many members of the USP clarified the demands from the government and the party Congress for the upcoming constitutional reform. Without ministry reforms, they won't be able to stand behind the reform package. Okay. The economy is still danger. Let's see what the presidential visit is all about. Traveling to the snow-covered city of Narble. Infamously one of Swordland's poorest, gritty edge. Even after the discovery of oil and gas in the area, years of neglect by central government were apparent on the buildings and general infrastructure. Natural resources were now under the control of Gasm, which elevated the corporation to a place of power. My task on this forum was mainly symbolic: fake smiles and handshakes with oil barons, meeting with local politicians, but most importantly of all, making sure that Norville did not feel like it was forgotten by the government. The scenery so far, however, was a reflection of Narble's neglect. The main roads to the city were not maintained well. There were many bumps and empty, discolored spots on the asphalt. As if my discomfort from the bumpy ride was apparent to him, I rolled down the partition window. I'll be arriving at the Hotel West in a few minutes, sir. Thank you for letting me know. Any time, it is my duty. After a moment, Serge started to smile under his mustache. How's life, Serge? Sir, I want to say it's been great these last 2 months. As you know, my wife Susan recently gave birth to her son, and now my daughter just started at a very good high school in Holsford. Get ready, Serge. Life's about to get a lot better. That's great news, Serge. I'm happy for you. Oh, I know, sir. It's already very busy. My daughter is a handful. Thankfully, my work times allow me blah, 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 blah. Okay. How are your children, sir, if I may ask? Doing just fine. Going through different phases in life. Dina is as lively as ever. They're doing just fine, going through different phases in life. I can understand that completely, sir. I had some trouble communicating with Erica as she grew up, but we found a common ground by going to plays. You're a good father, Serge. My children can talk to me if they want to. It's up to them. Communication is key. Communication is the key. It is. I was unlucky. I never had a connection with my father. He was absent from our life. And I just can't have the same situation with my children. My thoughts faded to my childhood. My father was also absent. Blah, 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 blah. And me as an absent father figure. Could that be the reason for his attitude? Serge continued after a moment of silence. Have I told you, sir? We named my son Georg. The doctor said he was very healthy, and thankfully, so is my wife. That's good. I hope so. Tell me more about your wife. She's a good heart. Her family comes from Sarna, so they are a little more traditional. She's beautiful, of course, but what I really admire is her selflessness. Sarna is a nice little city. Monica is persevering. It can be inspiring at times to have a partner like that. It's only fitting, a lioness for a lion. They're signed. I've already started thinking about their university education, especially Erica. I want to send her to a good private school, but with the current state of the economy, it's going to be hard for us. We could spend all our money on giving our driver. You know what? I can support the education of your family. Spend half my personal wealth on sending my driver's skids to school. It's true. Let's give them half of our wealth. You know what? I can support the education of your children. Mr. President, there is no way I can. With one look from me, Serge cuts his source and nodded to me after removing his hat. Mr. President, I don't know how I can ever repay you for this. Thank you so much. A good education is more valuable than any amount of money. Pay it forward. Car hits a major pothole and a bump, which lifted us up in our seats for a second. Are you fine? This is unacceptable. We need to invest in the infrastructure here. I agree, sir. We still need to drive back tomorrow unless you use one of those new helicopters. The large 25-story main building was undoubtedly one of the taller, more expensive buildings in the city. At its center, we approached the red carpeted entrance. Okay. Open the door. Thank you. Soon after the vehicle, fresh air marvel filled my lungs. Almost immediately, everyone present in the crowd flocked over to me, blah, 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 blah. A mass that I was very used to. Yes. Let's read the news. Protests appear calmer. Nationwide protests persist, albeit with a slight reprieve in tension across some city. Monday night. In Dare, the hometown of Revered Circus, massive memorial march saw tens of thousands of citizens. However, as dusk fell and the crowd began to dwindle, Elsewhere, processing, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so we seem to be gradually calming things down. Education privatization proven successful. I've been making efforts on the economy, but there isn't like just a button you push. It's just being nicer to try, or that turns the economy around. At least I don't think so. Blah blah blah. You say all the policies of the last decade. Boils down to two major parts. One of the privatization is of all in all, improvements to the system for Lesbia. Okay. There's the train button. Looking at the history of everything wrong in our country, there's only one figure that everyone points to, Tarkin Saul. Evolved our country into something much worse than it was before. Crimes against humanity? Oh dear, they have been calling for his trial, and we believe it is time that this government opens the way for a fair trial. Shocking misogynist rally. Every day we are appalled by how deep the roots of misogyny goes in our country. We are appalled again. Labor Union March. Okay. All I did was spread out economic development money to a under-serviced region. What the hell? It's just falling off a cliff. I thought the tourism money was going to help. Young swords suspected of terror attack. Approximately blah blah blah. The attack is suspected to be working on young swords. Okay. Yeah, Anglan was secretly prosperous. Hull Sword, read the report. RFJP report on reforms. Recently outlined their demands for the reform package. Okay. What's going on in Narble? Briefing on the current welfare situation, city of Narble. Balcony. Those are space Siri, Pascal, Benny Wall. My Minister of Health was ironically somewhat portly, having gained a few pounds since his breakthrough as a best-selling writer, but the authority in social affairs need not be questioned. Such a spectacular view. Clara Walda, Minister of Education, joined us on the balcony. Spectacular indeed, but if you look in the opposite direction, you'll see what Sol's decades of neglect did to the city. Most of the people living in Narble are workers, farmers, and their wives and children. They're breaking their backs for close to no pay, all thanks to greedy corporations. My intention is to help the working class. Whatever. I'd much rather be in Ulster right now. Can't really blame the companies, that's just how they work. My intention is to help the working class. I'm glad to see eye to eye on this issue. If you look past the view, we can see the real problems. Real problems like poverty. Pascal nodded gravely. This was a subject he knew quite a bit about. Himself, his best-known books were about the plight of the Swordlands less fortunate, drawing from his own past growing up in squalor. Well, Miss Walnut, I don't need to tell you about my own experiences with poverty. I'm sure you have similar stories. Am I right, Mr. President? We've all gone through difficult times. True, but some lives are more difficult than others, like ours was, and still is for hundreds of thousands of Swordlands. You don't have to have been poor to sympathize with the plight of the impoverished, much of you, as you don't have to have been born a woman to recognize Swordland's need for parity among the sexes. Parity among the sexes shouldn't be our first priority. Look at how many high-ranking female politicians our country has. Appearances can be deceiving, Pascal. Her voice sounded bitter. Think about how Lilius Graf got her to her current position. I don't necessarily believe the rumors about her and Saul, but she never could have risen so high if she didn't parrot his cause. Gloria Torre is it an accident that the first female assembly speaker is such a staunch conservative? And then there is the Alfonso's habit of promoting women to prominent positions to give Sordlin a progressive sheen while accomplishing nothing in reality. While women in places like Narbel are denied any opportunity to advance, the government can use a handful of female politicians from wealthy families, myself included, to pretend their only obstacle to success is their own lack of initiative. Meanwhile, those of us who don't use our clout to help powerful men stay in power are denigrated as angry spinsters. I ask you, Mr. President, does anyone care what your strategist, Mr. Gallade, doesn't have a wife? I agree with you completely. Sordlin's women deserve better. I'm glad to hear that. As I was saying, isn't it about time Holsword addressed this country's real issues, rather than bowing to the wishes of the hawks and beermongers and the establishment, and diverting yet more resources to the military and law enforcement? Our welfare, healthcare, and education systems have been decaying since the recession. Sordlin's poorer communities are losing hope. Okay, yes. Lilius Graf will take care of crime. She's an expert on the subject. Leave law enforcement out of this woman. So she's supposed to be tackled from different directions. We need to engage it holistically. If we could only stop the recession, create jobs and growth, capital must be prioritized towards the resources that matter most. The economic situation does play a huge role in living standards. Our urban and rural disparities are stark, and they are soon hit the weakest harder. We can't fix the economy by ourselves. We have to educate people and let them create new opportunities too. Hey there, Kevin. Oh, I quite like it. There's another subject I want to mention. I have been working on improving the rights of workers in our country and have proposed a draft bill that is currently being reviewed by your party. Sorry back me, and given his support, Sordlin has fallen behind most countries on this subject, and it is my responsibility to ensure this is not the case. I agree, we need to improve the standards for our workers. There's always room for improvement, and it is good to hear that you're pushing for it. We shouldn't upset the businesses who are already struggling. Cheers, caveman. Well, there's always room for improvement. Appreciate the kind words, Mr. President. I will not let you down. There's also a matter of life and death. Every decade, we hear of some horrific accident due to employers' disregard for their workers' safety. So will you back the bill when it arrives on your desk, Mr. President? I would be very interested in supporting it once it's finished. I would need to evaluate the contents in detail. To make a decision, I would need to evaluate the contents in detail. Understandable. You will receive all the sections in the outline. It's getting a little cold out here. Shall we continue our discussion indoors? We headed back inside. So we took our seats. So start with the health overview. Except for a few private hospitals operating under it, most of the populace receives adequate treatment. Health issues primarily appear in rural areas due to a lack of quality services. Doing my best to ensure that citizens of all ages receive the best healthcare they can. I also personally want to solve our high infant and maternal mortality problem. How many doctors and nurses are employed? We have 31,000 doctors, 73,000 nurses. That's a high number. What I think is, I don't want to be rude, but out of those numbers, how many are in urban and in rural areas? Good point, Pascal. This shows that per 10,000 people in urban areas, there are about 11 doctors, while in rural areas, there are only 3. Have to wait an embarrassingly long time before they are treated. There are 10 beds per 10,000 citizens compared to most of our neighbors. This is a very good number. Our amount of beds is higher than, but we obviously can't match Lesbia or Vogsland. Should hardly be used as a standard, but it is good to know they aren't in a massive health crisis yet. What's the life expectancy mortality rates? For mortality is a worrying 121 per 1,000 births, while our maternal mortality is 5 per 1,000. I assure you that we're doing everything we can to save mothers and their newborns. Those numbers are saddening indeed. I agree, we must do everything we can. We're working very hard on improving the quality of services. Is much appreciated. Tell me about the education system with pleasure. It's free, but we have a very outdated system that I want to reform. The other important issue is the lack of access to education in rural areas, especially for young girls. Okay. Let's get enough funding to be able to build schools in rural areas while I cleanse our educational system of its nationalistic indoctrination and sexist teachings. How many students and teachers? Currently 5 million students, 3 million in primary education, 1 million in secondary, and 1 million in tertiary. There are 155,000 teachers. It's full of young and bright minds. Should strive to make education available for all. We need to change in what is being taught. We should help children to ask questions and educate themselves. What is the literacy rate of Sortland? The literacy rate of Sortland is at 80%. This is a very good indicator for future growth, but it needs to increase. If I remember correctly, the most literate areas are Bergia and Anglen. But most of the literate areas, this is correct, although Lakivan skews the statistics for the Nargis region, which also has a vast number of illiterate citizens. This underlies my point about the lack of access to education. Tell me about the difference between rural and urban. 3 times the number of schools per 10,000 compared to rural areas. Rural areas also suffer from a lack of teachers. That's not a very good ratio. This is one of the most important problems we face, if not the most important. A huge part of the population is forgotten in terms of welfare. Thank you, Clara. I can fill in the blanks from here. I believe that's everything. What is it, Sierra? Look at this impoverished city. The streets full of potholes. The hospital barely functions. The school half open. Saul or even Alfonso, this is the cave of Sortland's forgotten regions. It has been going on for many decades due to structural corruption, which is fueled by capitalism. Let's not get into the ideological debate. We're here to change that trend and to provide for the people. That remains to be seen. I'm working on the new education system, and your support would be welcome. Sarah sat back down and sighed. One way or another, we need to change in Sortland. Greed and unchecked capitalism will not magically provide for the people. Tell me more about your plans, Sierra. My plans require an increase in the governmental budget. I aim to solve the problem we highlighted with the allocated money. By building schools in these less fortunate rural areas through fundamental changes to the educational system, I will unlock the potential of all our children, boys and girls alike. Our election mandate was to improve education. We will deliver on this. This brings hope to the table. Blah, blah, blah. There's much to be done, and if we are giving the budget, we can implement policies that push education to the next level. Wouldn't a promotion of private education help create additional funds? Yes, but at what cost? I'm not a supporter of private sector in education. At the end of the day, they are focused on profit first. What are you working towards, Pascal? I personally want to improve the low quality of healthcare in rural areas, so I created draft plans to increase the salary of doctors and to upgrade the equipment of the hospitals. I can do more with increasing budget. Additionally, a privatization plan to promote private investments in the healthcare system could allocate extra funds. Improving the quality of healthcare in less fortunate areas should be our highest priority. Exactly. It would directly diminish our depressingly high infant mortality situations. Besides, such a push would also have economic benefits. I do hope to create competition to increase the quality of healthcare with the Privatization Act. But you must realize that privatizing our healthcare system would increase the price of treatments and make access worse for the average citizen. Not to promote more state control would cost Swedish people dearly. I would rather no spoilers, please, Kaladin. My expectation from our government is that we understand and focus on the needs of the people. We are elected representatives of our people and we will prioritize their needs. I appreciate your briefings and plans. It's reassuring to hear. I don't want to sound cynical, but almost all governments keep making the same promises. We must show we are different through our actions. Did we cover all the necessary subjects? One more thing, I want to raise your concern about your scheduled meeting with Gazon chairman and former president Mr. Alfonso. By negotiating with Alfonso and his company, you have an opportunity to secure better labor conditions for blue-collar Gazon employees. This could be a triumph for all of Narvel. What is there to negotiate, Pascal? The standards for Gazon workers are already at rock bottom. President Rain can and must demand better. Nevertheless, it's worth acknowledging the corporation's significant contributions to job creation in Narvel and other poverty-stricken regions. My foremost priorities lie in improving the economy. Once that is achieved, upper mobility will naturally follow suit. What good is job creation if the workers are treated poorly? Of course, I'll demand better from Alfonso. If not handled poorly, could exacerbate the challenges these workers face. This is a matter close to my heart. I would personally be grateful if you're able to resolve the concerns raised by Katrina Horton and her labor representatives. It would be difficult to imagine a CEO like Alfonso giving benefits to workers without him personally gaining from it. Considering our need for greater energy security, in this world, nothing is truly free. I wouldn't anticipate anything less. Just as rely on each other, we can find a path to compromise. And so he's perilously close to the status quo. We must ensure that any negotiations generally benefit the people and not just uphold the interests of corporate giants. Thank you for your input, Sarah. But I will stress on President Lorraine how important it is that the door to dialogue remain open. Ideology should never get in the way of bringing about tangible, lasting change. Skeptical, we've seen empty promises before. Mr. Alfonso to meet with me. It is a step forward. I can't promise anything to either of you. I've got to get a grasp of the situation at Gazon first. Okay. This will keep you no longer. Thank you both for the discussions. Do hope we won't repeat the same mistakes again and again. Have a good day, Mr. President. It's just one of the many events I was scheduled in over the next few days. As I made my way out, the weather was noticeably cold, but it didn't keep a group of USB supporters from coming out to cheer us on in the streets. It's easy to understand the current state of Narvel. Some people were wearing clothes a few sizes too large. Some kids did not even have shoes, yet there was hope in their eyes. They were excited to see the president in their city. Okay. Yeah, we could go a little longer. Oh, look at that. The highway's halfway done. Well, let's read the news. Preserving national sovereignty, the EPA stands for now. So much sort of the resounding commitment to Sordland's economic independence was effectively defeated. Okay. Pivotal meeting with the CSP leaders agreed to address the intricate historically charges to Hellian's sovereignty. Okay, so CSP is eyeballing Highly Port. Widespread protest, organized crime, police forces overburdened. Young swords member found decapitated. Oh, jeez. Strike against Gasson. Further participation. Okay. Labor strikes at Gazom. Okay. Meeting with manager Alfonso on Gasson Ornable District. Series of intense meetings with Sierra and Pascal. Here at the capital, they were working hard to unite democratically leading reformers for the crucial task of drafting a new constitution. And invited me to visit Gasm headquarters. Prominent natural gas resource consisting of about 4 large fields. The roads are bumpy and marked by potholes, while the buildings surrounding us appear to be run down and dilapidated. We came to a halt at the entrance of the gated facility. Adjacent to the mural, a group of individuals in blue work vests had assembled, holding what looked like protest signs. Skillfully parked the car, bringing our journey to a smooth and elegant conclusion. Gus greeted us warmly and we stepped out of the vehicle. Okay. Even if just for a while, we'd be surprised if there were no demands. Good to see you, Gus. That's exactly what I hope to accomplish during today's discussions. My job is to improve the conditions of places like these. Mr. President, I've been brainstorming a little something. The Gruny Rural Investment Plan, I reckon it's got the potential to breathe new life into our rural communities out in Gruny. We would consider a few things. For starting, we could give farm businesses a boost with some subsidies, or we could steer towards modernizing existing farms with machinery and tech. Here's another thought. We could pour resources in developing crop breeds tailor-made for Gruny conditions. If it works out, we could roll this out across Swordland. As he guided us to the Gasson building, I got the appeal for the Green Bill that's been making the rounds in the Assembly, but I'm telling you, if we put the brakes on that and funnel funds into the Gruny plan instead, we could make some real strides without spooking any potential investors. If intrigued by your vision, I'll seriously consider your proposal. Doc was interrupted by a noise coming from outside the building. We looked at the nearest window. A bleak helicopter was cutting through the skies. Sunlight glinting off his polished surface descended towards us. It was our next appointment, Ewald Alfonso. Is that a helicopter or just his ego with rear go to place? Show of wealth, isn't it? Hardly seems necessary. Alfonso's style, Mr. President. He's already enjoyed his toys. He's always enjoyed his toys. The workers' rights bill. Look, I'm all for giving hardworking folks what they deserve, but isn't it a bit hasty to push this while we're still stuck in a recession? Do I see it? Short-term wins might end up costing us a lot big time in the long run. Gus, I get what you're saying, but isn't it high time we put people before profits? We've got to play this smart. We can't risk another economic blow. Went up for negotiations. Heard a worker from Essador on the radio. Said he's got rights on paper, but nothing in his fridge. We've got to make sure the fixes don't break something bigger. If we overload businesses now, they'll shrink or shut down. Workers lose more than just rights. They lose jobs. Strong labor protections are a foundation of lasting growth. Let's progress without rattling the markets. We need both stability and reform. Let's think of the option that signals progress without rattling the markets. So this way, Ewald and I have some exciting news to share with you. I have faith you won't leave us hanging. We're lively during the highway contract award and willing to hear new offers from you. Armanden had better make a return. We're really pulled back from public life. Okay. By the way, I still believe tourists should be trusted with such monumental magic project. They need to walk before they can run, and I'm saying this as a guy who actually almost likes Franz Richter. I think it's time we let fresh and fast new faces. We won't know until they complete the project, and there's no reason to be negative before then. Anyways, I digress. Let's get to the elevator. That's Canali infrastructure for you. Hallways were lined with doors, glass panels in them revealed workers in suits and ties, many of foreign origin, visiting their pristine offices. Workers outside working with machinery, transportation, and maintenance. Okay. Why are there so many workers from abroad? The best talent of Swordland was snatched by the SCC. Succeed in the 1930s, most other corporations couldn't contend, they had to look elsewhere. Ah, there's the elevator. It will ought to be up there already. It's a separate entrance by the helipad. Let's do this. Door opened. Hey, where are you, old my friend? Wald Alfonso stood up from his chair. Tailored suit, he wore casually his pajamas. Gus, you old devil. It took one to know one, as promised. I brought your guest of honor, President Rain. I hope you enjoyed seeing our facilities here. It's nice to see that you have what you have built from the inside. The facilities appear to be in much better shape than the city around them. Should have seen Narbel before Gaslam came here. The jobs it generated have had a lasting positive effect. It's true, things here could be a lot worse. Please, have a seat. Let's talk. President Rain, I'm here because we have a great opportunity at our hands, a business arrangement that will benefit Gaslam and Swordland alike. I also happen to believe that the current and former presidents of Swordland should stick together and share our experience. Not everyone has been in your shoes, we know. That is indeed a business arrangement. Well, let's focus on that. Of course, President Rain, business above all, should drive this discussion. Exactly, gentlemen. Let's get down to brass tacks, eh? As we discuss the future of Swordland, it is paramount that I comprehend your vision. The trajectory you set for this country will inevitably impact not just Gaslam, but also Swordland's position on the global stage. I'm following the news from the Maroon Palace closely since leaving office. I'm heartened with your economic interests seem to align with mine, but I am puzzled that your administration has so far ignored the wealth of opportunities provided by the West. It's not a foreign policy direction I would have chosen. Now, I hear that you're positive about the Kingdom of Rizia investing in Gaslam. Yes, I take it as an encouraging sign that a foreign nation is interested in Swordish's cooperation. Make a valid point, President Rain. The interests of foreign investors could indeed be seen as an endorsement of our potential for growth and competitiveness. However, I would caution that such an interest is not a guarantee of our success. You know, gentlemen, this reminds me of a story from when I was just starting out. A stubborn man insisting on doing things the old way, but these had new ideas, wanted to modernize and innovate. It was only when his father fell ill that he took over and transformed the farm. He took risks, made some mistakes, but ultimately he tripled their output in just a few years. A heartwarming story, I guess, but one successful case. Truly inspiring story, I guess. This is the kind of innovation and growth we should be fostering in Swordland. That's the power of economic freedom. It allows innovation, it allows us to adapt and to grow. Gus finishing his point, we suddenly heard the faint wailing of sirens in the distance. Before continuing, back to the topic at hand, it seems that we are at a crossroads with Gazim. The numbers tell a tale of struggle and potential. No need to sugarcoat it, Gazim is teetering on the edge of a cliff. Without significant restructuring, the firm risks plunging into insurmountable debt. My old friend Ewald reached out to me for assistance out of respect for our shared history, and my small stake in the company I couldn't refuse. I've always believed in the power of networking. I'm sure you've heard of Rusty Montoro, chairman and CEO of Rizian Royal Gold. Rusty and I go way back, and he's done quite well for himself. Back under Alfonso's government, I was able to broker a deal with King Remus Taurus, thanks to my connections with Rusty. It was a win for all involved. It seems like an impressively powerful alliance you've formed. Yeah. It's quite the feat, not one without risk, but the potential rewards for Swordland, I believe, are worth it. Thanks to Gus's Rizian connections, investors from the kingdom are now interested in Gasum, a development that could steer us clear of the looming crisis. We've got an amazing opportunity here. The demand for gas is steadily increasing from both international partners and the Swordfish state. All we have to do is ensure a consistent supply. Trouble is that right now some of our fields are operating at only half of their capacity due to resource limitations. We have significant potential for expansion, including 2 new fields that haven't even been tapped. With the right amount of investment, we can expand resource extraction. Okay. That requires us to be willing to take risks. Not the legacy we're striving, wouldn't you agree? I'm intrigued with the untapped fields. What's the potential return if we invest in these new areas? With proper investment and development, we project extremely high returns for the first 5 years alone. Through and through, we saw police cars driving down the street adjacent to Gasum Zone. That doesn't sound good. The Suzerain, the foundation for a robust partnership, is right here. It's high time we shift our focus towards sealing the deal. If we raise the minority investment, it would allow us to invest in further resource excavation in the gas field, then turn the company back to significantly profitability. By significant, I mean that our projections show that Gasum would be able to cover 80% of Swordland's gas needs in 3 years, and we would achieve profits 4 times the value of our investment. An enticing proposition. However, I would like to know more about the risks involved. What if the excavations do not yield expected results? If we are to invest in Gasum, I want to make sure that the company is committed to improving the social and economic conditions in Nargla. I wholeheartedly agree. The well-being of Narvel's citizens is a priority for Gasum. With this investment, we could certainly allocate some funds to improve local infrastructure and create more jobs. I've been thinking, what if we tie Gasum's growth to Narvel's development? Get the company to invest in the community, that way everybody wins. Mr. President, your administration's commitment to the market economy aligns with our vision of a competitive Gasum. With government investment, we can further liberalize the energy market, enhance our technologies, and compete globally. As an engine of prosperity and innovation. Yes, however, we need to be careful. Yeah, let's go with the thriving market. Yada, yada, yada. I'm glad we see an eye to this. With your support, I am confident Gasum will be able to chart a prosperous future. Your words are reassuring, Mr. President. Let's harness the power of the free market to elevate Gasum, in turn, the entire Swordfish economy. The government could either liquidate its shares at a future date or continue to reap the long-term profits. A beneficial arrangement for all partners. Walked back over to the window. He stood there, silhouetted against the vast expanse of the gas fields. After a moment, he turned back to face us. I've come to make a decision. Well, Mr. President, will Gaslam and Sordelin make a history or not? We're investing alone. Sordelin will provide the majority of the funds, and Gus will tell Rizia to back off. We'll co-invest with Rizia. We'll share the costs and the stakes. We'll co-invest with Rizia. Joint investment? A wise choice. It ensures steady funds for Gaslam. I like the way you think, Mr. President. Sharing the cost with Rizia reduces our risks and strengthens our ties. It's a smart move. Before we dive into the celebrations, I've allocated time during this meeting for President Rain to discuss any concerns regarding Gaslam's treatments of its workers and its effects on Narvel. The Labor Union, along with the Communist Party, has rallied substantial support from Gaslam workers in Narvel, advocating for improved local conditions. We need to address these concerns. Since the global power falls, then we'll get the give back somewhat. Our duty is to listen and to take action. That's the mandate granted to us by the public. Well, sometimes people may not always recognize what's in their best interest. Do you have a proposal in mind, Mr. President? Need better housing, access to healthcare, opportunities for education. As a leading industry, canting over the responsibility. A good point. I see the potential for Council will play a larger role in supporting our workers and the community. I will personally oversee the initiatives to provide private housing, health, and education support for our blue-collar workers. It's a shame they're here. I'll trust that you'll follow through on these commitments. I look forward to seeing these changes implemented swiftly. Suddenly the meeting was interrupted. The quiet murmur of a conversation from outside the room grew louder. Hurried footsteps. Hurried footsteps have blocked the main vehicular exits. Katarina Horton and Dennis Stoller seem to be leading the group. It would be difficult to leave the way we came without causing trouble. Well, that's a pickle. What's our move, Ewald? I have the helicopter ready, but we can leave undetected to avoid the chaos with potential danger. I think we should face the crowd head on. That is your prerogative, Mr. Prego. That is your prerogative, Mr. President. Following the violent events of late, I highly recommend against facing any crowd. Mr. President, I advise you to leave via helicopter. Just in case, I can stay back and update the crowd on the discussion today. Serge Wolkner rushed in. Mr. President, I have discussed the situation with the Presidential Guard and the security forces. They are advising us not to go out the way we came in. More police are on the way. You must take a decision, Mr. President. Everyone waited, the tense silence in the room, so in stark contrast to the buzz of the ever-growing crowd outside. Didn't... Oh, okay. Well, let's go talk to the crowd. Exactly. Address the protesters and leave via car. Address the protesters and leave via car, okay. As we stepped out of the towering gate of the Gaslam facility, I immediately became aware of how tense the situation was. Gus stood by my right side, his silhouette barely distinguishable from the monolithic edifice behind us. His eyes scanning the crowd with precision of a hawk. The Gassam security had drawn their weapons in anticipation, forming a bristling wall around the perimeter. My presidential guard, in stark contrast, stood tall and unflinching at the entrance, shielding us from the sea of angry workers surrounding us. Shouts of the crowd were deafening, the hostility palpable. Saller and Horton stood at this forefront with fire in their eyes. With a deep breath, I prepared to address them. We're here today not as adversaries, but collaborators. Our purpose, to invest in Gazam and to ensure it invests in you. The hardworking employees of Gazam, we stand with you today. Our shared goal is simple, to demand improved living and working conditions for everyone. We're here today to seek understanding and progress. We aim to bridge the gap between Gazam and its employees. Hardworking employee, we stand with you today. Our shared goal is simple, to demand improved living and working conditions for everyone. We are not blind to your struggles. We seek to acknowledge them, address them, and above all, improve them. A step towards a stronger, more balanced Swordland. We're not blind to your struggles. We seek to acknowledge them, address them, and above all, improve them. Speeches and more speeches from President Rain. What exactly was decided today? We need more than pretty words. We need substance. He's right, Mr. President. We need details. What's going on? What's going to change for the workers? Now hold on a moment. President Rain is committed to bringing about real change. His actions and decisions demonstrate this clearly, even if it doesn't fit your narrative. Is that so, Major? All we've seen are decisions that favor the likes of you and Evil Alfonso, not the common workers. It's not about narratives, Mr. Major. It's about ensuring fair, dignified lives for the working class, something your policies have consistently failed to do. Change is often slow and gradual. This film is not a narrative on our images, but on real, tangible changes. It's a process, and we're on the right track. What do you really... It's not on narratives or images, but on real, tangible changes. It is a process, and we're on the right track. Words, words, words. More what the workers need are actions, not promises. What about the recent campaign finance bill, Mr. President? It's a direct attack on bureaucracy, effectively silencing smaller parties like ours. Your neglect of our nation's healthcare system will harm millions. We demand that you support the upcoming Workers' Rights Bill. The labor force of Swordland will be watching your next move carefully. Furthermore, we want reform, reduce the election threshold, and change the Constitution to make a more democratic and fair nation. I understand the concerns and frustrations many of you have. Rest assured, we are here, we are listening, and we are committed to addressing these issues. I can't solve all these problems at once. We are working hard, making progress, but our problems won't simply vanish. Quiet murmurs of discontent began to ripple through the crowd. The workers' faces seemed to turn even stonier. I could feel the tension growing. The presence of our guards did little to reassure me. Pushed through the crowd, promising a microphone towards me. The locals of Marvel have suffered under the impact of Gazam for years. What concrete steps is Gazam going to take for the benefit of the local community? As a result of our negotiations, Gazam is committed to improving living conditions for its workers. This includes providing private housing and ensuring access to healthcare and education. We've secured a commitment to significantly better the wells of those employees. Upgraded housing, assured healthcare, and opportunities for housing are now guaranteed. Let's go with number one. I'm on your side. I know it's hard to believe, but today was a victory. This is a vital step towards building a more resilient workforce. Change came over the crowd. The angry shouts were replaced with cries of disbelief, then joy. Eventually, they all fell silent as they waited for Dennis and Katerina to respond. If these promises materialize, this could mean a significant improvement. This is a start, albeit late. Let's hope not a mere lip service. Private housing, healthcare, and education, that's indeed a shift from the status quo, Mr. President. While I commend this commitment to improve the lives of our gas-on workers, we can only hope this is not just another political gambit. Adorned in unmistakable scarlet attire, the Red Youth had arrived. I realized this was no longer a mere protest. It was a symbol of a broader, more potent struggle. The police began reorganizing their ranks, adopting defensive postures. Could you shed some light on the possible deal between the Swedish government and the Gasson? What role does the Kingdom of Ruzia play in this arrangement? In a show of international cooperation, Sordland and Ruzia will jointly invest in Gotham. Sordland is renewing its ties with the Kingdom. Together we will provide the funding that Gotham and its workers need. Together we will provide the funding that Gotham and its workers need. I went with a wealthy guy. You are aware of the monarchy's history of stamping out disagreement with brute force. We will be watching this co-investment closely. Your government will be responsible for keeping this partner's worst tendencies in check. I saw them glance over the crowds, now calmer but still restless. President Rain, while the crowd appears somewhat subdued, I would advise we exercise caution. It may be best to conclude your address and proceed to the vehicle. Thank you for looking out for me, Serge. Let's get out of here. Thank you for looking out for me, Serge. Let's get out of here. Let's get out of here. We'll remain here, Mr. President. The crowd seem calmer now, and I believe I can answer their queries and maintain the peace. You should go ahead. Mr. President, thank you for your willingness to address us. Let's continue these important conversations moving forward. You've shown courage today. We'll see if your actions match your words. Until next time. We have shown courage together. Now we will hold you accountable for your promises. The troubles of the laborers are not over, and neither is the work of our union. Shake their hands. Thanks to both of you. A flood of rippled through the sea of onlookers, their eyes darting back and forth between us in surprise. A few broke into scattered applause. The driver is Sergei. The initially hesitant clapping grew louder, jubilant cheers and whistles filled the air. See the Red Youth members standing at the edge of the crowd with their arms folded, a hint of approval in their eyes. As I readied myself to leave, I turned back to Katerina and Dennis a last time. Yes, the dialogue has only started, I assure you. Both my commitment to progress and change is unwavering. Look out, because most fear facing the truth. As for the conversation, it's always been going on. Swords are going to kill us. My job is to listen and act. As for accountability, isn't that what all governments should be held to? You have my word. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Dennis, Katerina... So remember that we're here for the same reason, to better the lives of our citizens. Let's not allow our differences to guide us to our common goal. It's challenging. Well, let's go with 3. I like this one. Can you clarify the current status of your proposal relationship with Iwa? No more questions, please. Mr. President, if you could please proceed to the vehicle. Sergei opened the door of the car and I lowered myself into the seat, the door closed behind me with a thud, sealing the external noise. The crowd began to disperse, the individuals breaking away to let our convoy through. guards took their positions nonetheless, forming a human barrier around the vehicle, and we began to move. I'm glad we are safely on our way, Mr. President. Sergei, in this role, danger comes with the territory. But your concern is appreciated. A little excitement to keep us on our toes, isn't it? Thank you, Sergei. I don't know what I'd do without you. Agreed, Sergei. Job well done by you and the team. We appreciate your acknowledgement, Mr. President. It's our duty and honor. The echoing voices of the protesters gradually subsided as we retreated from the scene and left Narbel behind. Okay, what time is it? 5:34. Time for me to go. There will definitely be more adventures in Swordland as we navigate our way through the political situation. We'll head back to the main menu. But yeah, that's going to be it for today. I wasn't expecting to bankruptcy, you say. It's a great game. It's very cool. I like it a lot. Can't wait for the any day now, Carrie. It's coming. It's coming any day now. I don't really see anyone I would want to raid into. So thank you all for hanging out. I'll catch you all next time.